Как меня учили в детстве, есть шпионы.
As was taught in the childhood, there are spies and there are secret service agents. And secret service agents are those who are with us. In the modern world, there are not just cybersecurity agents, but cyber agents. Who are those cyber agents we're going to speak about? Denis Kushinov is with us at the Research of Threats of Informational Security Department in the Security Center of Positive. Hello, Denis. And Oleg Skulin, the head of Digital Criminalistics and Forensics and IB Group, from the IB Group. Okay, guys, let's begin of what is a cyber
Звучит это очень так загадочно.
intelligence.
В чем она
It sounds interesting. What is the main part of it?
Киберразведка по факту
Cyber intelligence, it's data. This is data which has to answer the question to who attacks, when he can attack, and
и его
what he uses for attack and his motivation. Why is he doing the attack? Attacks what? Attacks any organization,
заносную кампанию.
does some criminal campaign. For example, the group motivates
То есть они могут...
to steal money. They can be involved in espionage.
Киберразведка, она вот...
And cyber intelligence, in a simple way, should answer those questions, these simple questions.
То есть
So,
у киберразведчика очень
cyber intelligence manager works with a lot of data.
собирает
He collects a lot of data, collects data about tactics of different groups,
индикаторы компрометации.
collects the indicators of compromising.
Этот объем
So this data volume can be applied to discover attacks, to speak about who attacks you.
в общем-то, и когда мы собираем эти данные,
And when we collect this data,
нельзя сказать, когда они...
one cannot say when this data will be useful. We can collect this data right now, but they will become useful in 1 month from now. Some people are preparing the attack right now, and we're saying that we have the data. Something like that. We inform about this data, but this data will be relevant only 1 month from now when the attack will happen.
предотвратить.
So as a fact, we try to prevent certain attack. We work preventively,
Бывают такие случаи, когда уже атака...
but there are cases when the attack happened
Клиент говорит, у меня атака.
and the client says, we're being attacked and we have data
Конкретной компании. То есть есть
from a certain company, research, we know the tactics of when we say that in your system, you can search for these indicators.
вот она,
And this hacker group
например, проникает там через внешний периметр, она
penetrate through the external perimeter, they go there, they use this exploit, some WPO.
спорить, там, реагировать
And by this, you can speed up the reaction
в степени даже вот прям нивелировать все последствия, которые, ну,
and mitigate all the consequences which might happen. Data destruction, theft of money or data.
разведчики вот как раз этим и занимаются.
So cyber intelligence, they do that. Well, IB Group is known for their cyber intelligence. This is not just simply data. Of course, the data are the cornerstone, but these data should be in a context. The cyber intelligence, what is the most important thing is we have a lot of different software. We have a lot of tactics, techniques, and procedures. More than 400. But the most important thing is that cyber intelligence allows us to collect data about specific groups and most importantly, understand which organizations are being attacked by these groups. So cyber intelligence allows you not only for technical specialists to get important information, but also to the top managers of those organizations. And they can make priorities for the budgets. They can understand who's going to attack them. They will understand how they will be attacked and what are the goals of those criminals if they will enter this corporate network. So it's not right to think that cyber intelligence is a supply of the indicators of compromission. Some people do that. They just download into CM a lot of IP addresses and whatever. Well, this is also a tactical level. It does exist, but there's also a strategic and operational one. In cyber intelligence, it uses tactics, techniques, and procedures to properly detect them, and on a strategic level, also understand threats and prioritize them. Oleg, how can we understand how cyber intelligence manager should understand? Well, the hacker thinks about some actions. He did not do these actions. How can you understand what he wants to do? Well, everything depends from potential goal, and it's not like that. For example, there's a lot of different groups. Some groups are motivated financially. Some groups are representing interests of certain states and same intelligence, because we can say that it can be counter cyber intelligence. We speak about threat intelligence. So there's a lot of groups like that, and in principle, cyber intelligence people, they know what they're interested in, and on the basis of this information, we can understand if the group A he enters network B, what this group will do in this network, because we know about their reputation. Yes. Okay, let's speak about who are those attackers and what do they attack. How do you see it, especially in recent days? Did we see any changes in the trends or the intensity of attacks? You see, in recent days, especially due to political events, the trends have changed. There is a lot of attacks targeting
репутационный риск на
reputational risks, destruction of data. In recent days, we see mass leakages of information, breaks are happening. We see it through the news, through the tweets, and many people have heard about this anonymous group which acts in political goals. They are targeting breaking into Russian communists. And if we compare the year 2021, we see more and more attacks like that. DDoS, breaking, DDoS. How much more? Single percentages or dozens? Significantly, not dozens, but significantly more. If hackers can find a small crack in perimeter, they will get through it.
И можно сказать, что да, сейчас такое происходит, прям, я называю это прям большой-большой пентест, то есть...
And I can say this is days of big pen tests, and many companies who never faced it, they are facing right now frequent incidents.
Все равно остаются, так скажем...
But we still have OPT groups, the trend is still kept, it's growing, but not in amount like this explosive growth of such attacks.
Можно сказать, что...
Out of tactics, I can say that new tactics are available, and right now there is a supply chain trend. It's called supply chain to the open source because it's not a really nice one. Can you disclose this supply chain to the open source? It may not sound well. Supply chain to the open source is attacked through the delivery chains, through some products which are in the open source. Okay, can you give us an example? For example, well, let's speak about a banking company. Well, SolarMix, it's a story, it's an old story. I would like to speak about something new. For example, there is a repository for developers of JavaScript, NPM, and with political statements, they've been downloading data, political banners, and people who've been installing it, they've seen those banners. Clients have seen those banners, and nobody stops them from this, and this is available. They can download malicious code in it, and when many companies download these updates to themselves, they receive a backdoor to the update. They download default backdoor, and open source is... we still consider that this is outside of politics and all of this, but still, people are behaving like that. This is not really nice, unfortunately, but it is happening. It was happening, and it continues to happen. I believe that this trend will come to nothing but the supply chain. If yesterday Vladimir and Igor Zalewski were telling us about Asian PT groups, they've been attacking to the darknet. It's an interesting supply chain. Those who didn't watch this report, please look at it. Supply chain is moving up. Phishing stays there, it's still available. And this is interesting to the open source supply chain. Well, there is a statement as if in every company, in every business, they do have some internal group, hacker group, insiders. To your point of view, is it a truthful statement or not really? I think this is more related to state organizations and organizations which are posing interest to foreign intelligence. I might agree with this. If we speak globally about business, mostly no then yes, but usually business has another problem, because even right now, it's not well protected. So criminals, if they have a desire, it's not difficult for them to enter any network. And it's not necessary to use any complicated techniques like supply chain attacks, same phishing, same publicly accessible application, remote access services. They are very easily compromised, and attackers are using, like it was working 15 years ago, it still continues to work.
Ландшафт угроз
Speaking about the threat landscape in Russia,
очень активно стал
it's very actively developing in the course of last months.
что, во-первых,
And we do see that hacktivists have been activated if previously they've been doing nothing. Which hacktivists? Hacktivists, okay.
ну, вот как раз Anonymous и вот
Like Anonymous and all other people who are trying to support or to give response to some political phenomena of the current world, and not just doing DDoS attacks, but also attacks against different organizations. Well, according to your opinion, goals for these hack groups today are more provocative, like Anonymous, that something happens and Anonymous takes responsibility, or they are aimed against making significant damage to companies.
временная история.
I think this is a temporary story. Plus, many groups can use it as some smoke wall, because we do see that they have activated traditional financially motivated cyber criminals. Because first of all, Russia right now for many countries became absolute legitimate for a hacking country, and interesting and financially motivated.
Да, и финансово мотивированные хакеры этим пользуются.
And financially motivated hackers are interested in this. While everybody is looking at Anonymous, they perfectly breaking networks, and they get ransom. If we're speaking about the ransomware, we fix that there are 4 times more of them than last year. Big number. If previously we've seen those attacks in the West, and mostly these were Russian-speaking groups. Even Russian-speaking groups, they are attacking Russia, and they have big interest in big companies, which previously they have not been attacking. And right now everything has changed.
Как раз на что нацелены. Вот,
What is their main target? Actually speaking, if you look at different hacks like Anonymous,
они не шантажируют, то есть это какие-то там
they are not blackmailing.
выкуп, они просто на самом
They don't require ransom, but they have reputational and physical damage. They destroy data, and if they steal data, they publish them without any warning. So basically,
я бы сказал,
this is a cyber war stage
максимальный урон противнику.
with maximal damage against the enemy. Let's speak about attribution.
Что это такое?
What is it?
Можно ли в ходе
And is it possible in the course of cyberintelligence to understand? Yes, of course, it's possible to understand. Okay, in the beginning, what is it? Let's open the term attribution of hacker attack. Attribution, as we've told you, well, there's a big number of criminal and sponsored groups.
Хочется сказать атрибуция атаки какой-то группы.
Well, attribution of attack to a certain group, but we did not disclose the term.
Определяем, кто.
This is when we determine who stands behind this attack.
Да, да.
So which hacker group stands behind it?
Во-первых, группы могут использовать уникальные
Because groups can use unique malicious code, unique tactics, techniques, and procedures, but sometimes,
киберпреступность, а не
especially if we speak about cyber criminals and not cyber war or sponsored by the state groups.
раnsomwareщиков.
Let's speak about ransomware companies. Well, in recent years, it became very complicated because it's all based on partnership programs. Same people are jumping to different partnership programs. They use same tools, the same malicious software, plus they use services from other attackers, which are tuning servers, which rent out malicious software. And right now, very often it's mixed up before the attacker have encoded
Очень сложно.
with some unique ransomware. It's very hard to say who stands behind this ransom attack. Speaking about the sponsored groups, sponsored by the state, it's much simpler with that, but it's not always happens like that. And we see examples when one group breaks infrastructure of another group and uses the malicious software of another group, posing as some American group, and American group shows itself as an Iranian group, and there could be certain complications in the attribution, but it depends on how much data is available for this cyber intelligence. If this data is sufficient, then it's easy to attribute this attack. If we don't have sufficient data, then unfortunately it might be very difficult or impossible. Yeah, you can always say, but you should make mistake, and you should not make a zoo of many groups, because right now, from year to year, we see more and more publications of reports about different groups, and every researcher wants to bring something new. So we can say, well, I found a new group, this is a new group, but at the same time, as it was properly said from IB Group, there are tools which are shared between groups. Either person just comes from one group to another group, or just buys from one developer. And it happens that when we attribute by code, then we have not really nice situations, and we say that, well, this is another group, but it's not always like that. Maybe this is one group, and we can speak about it. And many researchers, they have a lot of reports, they're not always able to speak about it, and they say, well, this is a new group, because bank database is not available. We don't have agreement between vendors how to properly name those groups. Every vendor has his own system of naming. APT1, somebody calls it TA 428, somebody calls it just like from the Mendeleev spread table, somebody invents some entities and they use them as names. So you open the group card and you see 15 names of these groups, and you say, well, I will invent another one. And it happens that it's like a snowball, grows very fast. Well, in case if this self-attribution is possible, in case if it's understandable what kind of a hacker group it is, what happens next? Of course, you have this data on the side of this cyber intelligence person, officer. Okay, we see data, what kind of a hacker group is involved, and then we are during the incident, we're sitting there, we research the incident, we say that this particular group has certain tool, it does this and these techniques. It moves all over the network, it's financially motivated, it steals money, it encodes computers and steals money. So we can assume what other steps will be available. But if, for example, the final point of incident, when everything is encoded, for example, something was stolen, we say, where did it come from? And we are saying with which techniques they went into the network. And we're saying which WPO has been used, how they use network infrastructure, which certificates do they use, how did they transfer data, etc. So on the basis of all this data, you can quickly investigate incidents and you can say who's standing behind it. Basically, we can have small data when we react to incident. There is a certain host that was compromised. The system administrator or SOC have seen some potentially malicious activity. I don't know, maybe in relation with some well-known command and control server. And if we have cyber intelligence data, which group we can attribute it to, we also can understand what was taken by this group, and it speeds up our reaction to the incident, and we can prevent appearance of these negative events, the finals of the attack. Will this data be transferred to police for the investigation? Do you have these practices? Of course. But if it's a foreign attack, and this is not somebody from outside, from the territory of Russian Federation, when you figure this out, well, it happens differently. But there are organizations which are involved. Speaking about cyber criminality, not about state-sponsored groups, because it's much more complicated there. But speaking about traditional cyber criminality, possibly many of you heard that during last year there were a lot of arrests related with ransomware and people who somehow are related with this ransomware. Just yesterday, there was a publication that behind Thanos, the person who's been developing, it's a citizen of Venezuela. He was discovered, and he was law enforcement agencies are exchanging data on the international level. There is Interpol, Europol, and this is all realistic and it works. Honestly, it works. And these recent cases, they do confirm it. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Cyber criminality, it's the same criminality, but in a digital space. But there is no difference where the crime was committed in digital space or in real world, just for the simple reason that virtual and real worlds are inseparable right now. The role of cyber intelligence is to investigate and prevent cyber crimes. And right now we've been speaking with two cyber investigators, Alex Kolkov from IB Group and Div Krushina from Cyberintelligence. Thank you guys for your interesting story and for your intelligence. Thank you. We will try to do our best.